Now we come to third enlightened activity, which is Vashya, the activity of magnetizing, inspiring, creating resonance, alignment, connection. Magnetizing draws together. It builds the community. You know, its function is to create the conditions in which people, energies, possibilities, they flow towards each other and in ways which are mutually beneficial. And also remember that it is never ever manipulation. Never. Making this distinction is very crucial, very important. Manipulation works against someone else's free will. You are not exploiting someone else's weakness. You are not creating artificial desire. You're not creating obsessions. You're not triggering obsessions. Some people do that. It's highest level of negative karmas. No, uh, I don't want to talk about it, but anyway, you don't want to do anything by concealing truth. These are enlightened activities, which means that they are in the purest state. So the truth is always there. It works by revealing the truth, by expressing what is genuine, what is resonating with what people already know or already long for, what they need in their lives. As I said, it has to be mutually beneficial. So magnetizing is about alignment, alignment with best opportunities in your life, in simple words. It brings right people, right conditions, and it helps you to live your dharma. And the color of this activity is red, the color of passion, of life force, of heart. There's a beautiful example of bone chain Buddha. It's not available too much on internet. I think it's in the books. So in Chinese Buddhism, it is said that there was a prostitute, and she never let any man go without satisfying his desire. Whenever anybody came to her, she satisfied their desires. And then she was very young and she passed away. And there was this monk, or an enlightened Buddha again, who went there. He saw her grave and started bowing down to it. People came, people said, "Oh my god, this was a prostitute. Why are you bowing down to her?" He said, "No, this was not a prostitute, but this was a Buddha." Right? And then they dug that grave out, they opened it, and there was bone chain. Bone chain, as in all the bones, they were connected to each other like a chain. And then the relics were taken out, a temple was made at that place, and then that Buddha, bone chain Buddha, was prayed to. But what are we learning here? That was magnetizing. She was using her own sacred energy, like sacral chakras energy, which is sexual energy, because that is all we have, right? She was using that prana to push people towards enlightenment. It is said that whenever someone had any kind of intercourse with her, they lost all desire, all lust, not desire, but all lust. And they were immediately pushed towards enlightenment, towards the spiritual path. So that was a Buddha, right? She was using this magnetizing activity, no matter how it seems in front, to push people towards enlightenment. And when I talk about these things, even in the next activity, there are a couple of things. I hope that people who have sense of discernment are listening to these videos. These were Buddhas. They have no sense of doership. Things are happening the way they are happening because that is how they were supposed to happen. They are not claiming the ownership. They are not saying that they are the ones doing it. As long as there's body consciousness, as long as there's an awareness that a person exists, you have to see that video of, I believe, Swadhyay to understand what I'm saying. Okay. Here it was her purpose, but there was no sense of doership. There was no entitlement with the body. There was no sense of doing. No, very sensitive. But you have to understand what I'm saying, right? Here, and also just to make sure that it is not taken out of context. If someone is doing something out of necessity, out of need, but at the same time they have the sense of doership, they're enjoying whatever they are doing, and there's lust that exists, within anyone, right? They are in the cycle of samsara, if not realized the nature. Maybe this woman, this person who was a prostitute, since they are a Buddha, right? It means that yes, their karma was to be played out like this. They had to pay back their karma in this way. They had to do, like, they had to live their life in this way. But there was an awareness of their true nature, which is why their entire energy was used up very quickly. and then of course maybe given to other people. They say that any kind of sexual intercourse, any kind of sexual encounter, it's like, as I've shared before, it's like plugging yourself into a computer. You don't know what kind of viruses you are taking in. So one has to be very, very careful about giving or taking somebody else's sexual energy. It's very, very dangerous. Let alone having unprotected sex and all those things. They say that this energy doesn't leave you for about a year if you're not very conscious of clearing it. Sometimes you might have observed that if someone has, let's say, sexual encounters with someone random, that person takes away their energy, and this person who's not aware, maybe they were spiritual or maybe they were very rich, they lose all their money, they lose all um, all the abundance that they have. But the other person who's now not even in their life because it was a casual hookup, they suddenly grow in their life. So they took that energy, right? I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. But now coming to the activity again, all of this is my own understanding. So yeah, be discerning. So magnetizing, it means attracting and harmonizing. It attracts teachers, students, beneficial circumstances to propagate, to understand, to live your dharma, to realize your true nature, right? Or to draw in the resources that are needed for spiritual development. It brings together whatever belongs together, whether it's two people, whoever. It harmonizes relationships. It influences the situations through compassion rather than force, through love rather than force. If there's, let's say, a very charismatic leader that you have in your country who is inspiring followers at all times. Let's say if there's an actor that everybody likes, that is magnetizing activity. And if that actor starts meditating, so many of his followers will start meditating. We've got this person called Virat Kohli. He's a cricketer in India. He has so many followers, like so many people who love him. He became very spiritual, and so many of his followers, and then of course so many other people also, could find about this very particular teacher that we have in India. He's very open-minded, very brilliant teacher of dharma. Because of this person. What is that? That's magnetizing activity. It has taken so many people towards dharma. A teacher who's drawing students to wisdom, an artist whose work evokes different kinds of emotions, attracts a lot of attention, and then puts you in a meditative state. One artist that I can think of, it's Alex Gray. His art, it always drives me crazy. It's beautiful, beautiful. It always puts me in a trance. That is magnetizing activity. A person who's falling in love, um, when inspiration has gone dry and your aliveness needs to be rekindled in life, when you need to feel um, beautiful, that is magnetizing. Your community, a community that comes together for a particular cause, a business that's attracting customers, a friend who brings people together, a musician whose music you love and then go into trance with, a speaker who leaves this audience spellbound. All of these, a healer who draws people to practice. All of that is magnetizing. All actions which attract, align, and harmonize. But all of that is for the purpose of awakening. That is very important to understand. And it is always happening within yourself as well. When you set an intention and then you watch opportunities appear, when you align your actions with your values, what you say, that is magnetizing. When you truly want, when you have this clarity about what you want, and then suddenly that thing feels drawn towards you. When you practice loving kindness, and then suddenly everyone starts appreciating you, loving you as well. Perform Ho'oponopono, and then you'll see that relationship shift. That's also magnetizing. The moment you um, speak your truth, and you see a lot of other people are also understanding it, that is magnetizing. So there are so many examples. I can just go on and on, right? That is magnetizing. It's just creating that coherence within your conscious and subconscious mind, between your um, intention and action, between you and the world, between this realm and the subtle realms, all of that. So to put it simply, it addresses your isolation, your disconnection, feeling not aligned, misalignment with the world, not being able to form connections. If you feel alone and nothing is working, or if you're pushing against the current, If you don't like the job that you are in, you want better opportunities, then this is what you need. Okay, and never overuse it. Don't become manipulative. Don't try to control people or outcomes. Never do that. Never use your charm, or never increase your charm, let's say, to get what you want. Okay, allow natural law of attraction to work, so that it forms a feedback loop, so that at least you know what is going on in your subconscious mind, because that is what you're attracting. And if you use this charm or mantras or whatever to attract what you want, you might regret later. Okay, so be absolutely clear in what kind of karma you're creating. And to be very honest, true magnetizing, true attraction, I think, comes when someone is authentic. I don't think there's anything that's more sexy than that. It's the most beautiful thing about everybody. So whenever someone is authentic, they, I think, vibrate highest. If you recognize that you need magnetizing activity, if you feel isolated, you need support, you need people to support you, you need better opportunities, you want to align conflicting forces, then call on Red Tara. No? Also, Tara Kurukulla, she's my spiritual bestie. I love her so much. She is red, four-armed goddess. She holds this beautiful bow, an arrow. It's made of flowers. In Hinduism, we have Kamdev. He's sort of like her. His bow and arrow is also made of flowers and everything. So her arrows, they don't wound, right? They pierce your heart with love, and then it draws beings towards enlightenment. And also, she has many other functions. Okay, uh, she is one of the most beloved magnetizing deities. She also clears your ego and everything. But when we talk about Taras in detail, we'll talk about her. I love her so much. Then we have Lord Krishna. He's the poster boy of magnetism. We all know he's even all of other avatars of the same god, which is Lord Vishnu. They're not as magnetic as him. Some might be wrathful, some might be different kinds. But Lord Krishna is called to be the perfect manifestation. He's very famous for playing the flute. His flute magnetizes all beings. It draws love from all people, especially gopis. It drew those gopis from their homes. So Krishna is one deity, which increases the charm. And then I shared about Bone Chain Buddha, right? Before we move on, let's do the practical exercise again. Take a moment now. Take a deep breath in and out. Where in your life do you need magnetizing? Is there a relationship that needs harmonizing? Is there an opportunity that you want to attract? Is there a teacher or a mentor that you need to find? Or a part of yourself that feels disconnected from rest of the world, that feels very isolated? Hmm? Think of it. Put your hand on your heart now. Breathe deeply and simply say, may what belongs together come together. May I attract what I need. May I attract what is best for me to be on my path. And may this alignment arise naturally. Amen. Amen. Amen.